We are back.
Yes, we are.
So today, the question posed, is that how you say it? The question posed
Yes.
is stocks versus real estate. And the reason this came up is because a gentleman which has become a friend to us, nice, very cool guy, business owner, had reached out to you yesterday and said, I want to take some of my money out of the stock market and into something tangible.
Right.
And I have some experience with stocks and real estate. You have a lot of experience with real estate, especially, but also stocks.
Mm-hmm.
And so, which is the better investment?
Okay. It depends on your experience with each of these fields. I've invested in stocks and I've gotten murdered. I've lost a good chunk of money with stocks. Okay, and with those EFTs, what do you call those?
The with crypto,
With crypto and the other one, EFTs or whatever,
ETFs.
ETFs. I can't see. You got so in my perspective, for my look on things, for me, real estate is the best. Okay, because in order to for me to make money in stocks, I've got to do a tremendous amount of research into the company, find out, hit their history, what are their returns, are they paying dividends? So, and that comes easy for a lot of people. It's time consuming. Okay, and usually I go on tips, and I've lost money.
Yeah.
I've made money in stocks too, but I've lost money. I would say I've lost more than I've made. Um, in real estate, that you also need to do your research, and you have to be very careful too in terms of the market, because the market will shift on you completely. But it depends what your play is. Are you a short-term player that you're trying to flip, or are you a long-term player? Okay? And so what I tell everybody that calls me, everybody's looking for a good deal. Everybody's looking for the deal.
In stocks or in real estate, either way.
Correct. Okay?
Yeah.
Um, but if you buy in an area, real estate, if you buy in an area that's somewhat stable and it has a certain amount of business and it's got a reputation, and you look that it's holding its, value, so to speak, you're probably going to venture well in real estate because traditionally, it goes up. They're not building any more lands. Their land is
It's not
constant.
expanding.
It's not expanding. You can't make more land.
Yeah, they're either building up or tearing down.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so, but in between all of that, there are pockets of opportunities.
Yeah.
Okay? And the same goes for the stock market. The only thing is that I am a lot more comfortable with real estate than with the stock, because I hear all these things about stock manipulation, this and that and whatever, and I'm sure that in some cases it happens and in some others it doesn't.
Yeah.
I just don't want to take that chance. So I'd rather buy real estate. For me, real estate. And the gentleman that called us yesterday, his first name is Carlos. He gave us the idea to do this podcast because he's not the only one that has called us, especially lately, to say, hey, you know what? I want to invest my money in real estate, in tangible assets. I want to get my money out of
Yeah.
the stock market. And that's interesting to me because it's happened, you
Yeah.
lately a lot.
You know, for me, from my perspective, I do think it's good to have both.
Okay?
Now, some people say, hey, if you're going to go all in on something, but if you look at the last 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
if you had your money in certain stocks, bless you,
Excuse me.
you could have potentially made crazy returns
That's true. That's true.
that real estate wouldn't, at least the way I understand it, the real estate traditionally, an investment property, units, 2 units, 5 units, things like that, wouldn't give you that same return.
You're absolutely correct.
However, the stock market is very volatile, and real estate also has its its ups and down markets, but for the most part, um, I like the idea of having both. However, I do think that real estate offers something that stocks don't provide:
What is that?
a steady income. Now, I know that there is dividends, then you can buy in dividend paying stocks,
Mm-hmm.
but I haven't personally, and this is not, again, this is not stock advice, financial advice. You're a real estate broker. I have securities licenses, but this is just based on our experience.
We don't know anything. Okay? Do
Uh,
your own research. This is for fun.
like was it Socrates that said, "All I know is I know nothing."
Correct.
So, but we have experience, right? So I had experience with certain stocks that I started pretty early, and I just bought stocks that I use these companies like Starbucks stock, Panera stock, Chipotle stock. So if I use that company, if I was a customer there, I thought, hey, it's a good product. I liked it, and so I just bought stock in it.
That's a great idea.
That's the way I did it.
That's a great idea.
And some of them did pretty well, and then some of them did horrible. Like Sirius Radio was one that didn't go anywhere. Groupon didn't go anywhere. But I didn't put that much in those. I put more in companies that I thought that I used. But so stocks have been good to me, but it's extremely, like, you can overnight all of what you had gained on paper can just disappear. And those ups and downs, I think, are very
They're brutal.
they're brutal. It's an emotional roller coaster, and I don't think
Been there.
I don't know. Real estate does it also, but it's different. It's different in the real estate game. You could still be collecting rent. The property values are dropping. That's not fun, but you could still be collecting rent. Right? And I know there's dividend stocks, so I'm not saying you can't build a portfolio that generates income. But I personally, when I was investing in the stocks, most of them were very little dividend. So most of it is just like a long-term thing, and your money's sitting there. So I think if I would have put my money in a real estate investment that was paying me all this time,
Mm-hmm.
how would the actual returns compare? But look, we're speaking to a gentleman who wants to get out of the stock market and into something tangible. Those were his words.
Yes.
We're not advocating necessarily for one or the other. It's just what our opinion is. But why are people looking, from your perspective, why are people looking to get their money out of the stock market and into tangible real estate, for example, investments?
Well, I think that people are concerned about where we're headed. You know, we've got inflation, the prices continue to rise, we've got unemployment, we've got a lot of stuff in the economy. You know, if you concentrate on that part of it, of things, you know, things are pretty negative. So you need to be careful how far down you go, you know, in that rabbit hole, because
Yeah.
it may not be productive in the long run.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you and I, and there's a lot of people out there that say we make our own economy. So if you're losing money here, you know what? Go out there and figure out a way out there, you know, on the streets, on the market, and figure out a way to make more money, because we make our own economy.
Yeah.
And I see young people getting super creative.
Oh, yeah.
From my perspective, I like real estate because I think, and we could argue this all day long, folks, men, ladies, more stable. At least for me, it has been, because you're right, you have rental income that you can somewhat depend on. Okay? And I
Right.
say somewhat because with the pandemic, I've had a couple people, I've had 3 renters that don't pay rent.
Right. That's why there's arguments to both. I think you can win either way, because you can.
And one guy hasn't paid rent to me for 2 years.
Yeah.
And there's absolutely nothing that I can do. And so,
It depends the area, the county, the city, all that stuff.
if all the rules and regulations, the state continues to
Right.
extend,
But that just makes you get more creative.
correct.
And look at the rise of like things like Airbnb
Right.
and these type. I mean, there were always vacation rentals and stuff like that. But look at how Airbnb. I mean, I know a gentleman who's investing in Pasadena,
Uh-huh.
and he's turning his units, 2 units like duplexes and single family homes, stuff like that, into Airbnbs, and he's getting potentially double what or more, no, more than
More
double
than double.
what a traditional rental, like a steady lease tenant, will pay doing Airbnb. Now, the obstacles there is some cities don't want it, some areas don't want it. Airbnb has fees, all that stuff. But either way, that's creative.
That's creative. Well, when I said that I see young people, um, there's there's a couple young people that are photographers.
Mm-hmm.
And what they do is there's one in New York and one that travels over. But what these folks are doing is saying, hey, he sees a young lady come by
Oh, yeah.
and he says, hey, hi, good morning. You look great. Can I take a couple pictures of you?
Yeah.
And then, he sees the beauty in them. And in the pictures that he takes, he makes them stand out kind of like models.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah. With
And
his
then-
editing and.
Yeah. But not just young ladies. There was another guy that had like a lot of character to him. He was dressed in a suit. And he says, excuse me, can I? He looked like a mafia guy kind of thing, from the 40s or something. And he said, can I take a picture of you? And he said, sure. And he was smoking a tobacco. And he takes a picture. And I'm telling you, he was perfect
Yeah.
for a script in Goodfellas or something like that. And then he shows those folks the pictures that he taken. They
Yeah.
look at it and they go, wow,
Yeah, no, I've seen the guy.
You're good.
It's amazing.
he's got a gazillion followers.
Yeah.
And then he is monetizing
Sure.
his platform. That's creative. There's another guy also that apparently he went to Italy and he picked out the most expensive hotel in Italy, which is by the Cove. Okay? It's a beautiful place. And he was able to talk to the daughter of the owner. And he said, all I want to do is take some pictures of your place. The reason I picked you is because you're the most expensive place in Italy.
Yeah.
Okay, now that's creative, you see? But he got in. And she said, okay. And he did like a short clip on it. And it's a gorgeous, beautiful place. And that clip got like, I don't know, 280,000 hits or more. And
Yeah.
you create your own economy,
Yeah.
by being positive, looking at things in a good light. Because if we can talk about unemployment, we can talk about inflation, we can talk about the prices going up, and
Yeah.
you keep going in that cycle. You need to break that cycle
Well,
at some point.
There's always people who are going to be creative, right? And make new businesses and opportunities like that. More so, the idea or the debate is once you have funds, what do you do with them? Where do you park them? Because what you're saying is take your time and energy and put it into something and create something new. But that's a new business.
Right,
That's a
right.
new venture.
Right.
And there is a lot of stuff about having side jobs, side gigs, and those side gigs replacing your first gig. But you really that's gonna take your time, which I guess you can say real estate or stocks will take your time also, because you're gonna have to research and look at things. But once you got funds, however it is you get those funds, whether it's from your current business or you're doing something on the side, where do you park them? And that's
Real estate for me. I'm done with the stock market. I'm not. I'm good with it. It's for me. But see, it's because I've had not good experiences with it.
Yeah.
You know, the returns I've gotten from the market, the stock market has not been anything. So for me, I adhere to the uh, Grant Cardone idea, where he's come up with a couple of things that were very impressive to me, and he says, you know, this is a while back. This is the young Grant Cardone, not the older Grant Cardone. The older Grant Cardone, got nothing against him at all. In fact, I have a great deal of respect for him because his history of how he started and he was involved in, with drugs, and it's no secret. He says it to everybody. And he climbed out of that hole. And anyone that can do that, you got to have a lot of character, a lot of strength. I mean, but what he says is, the young Grant Cardone, what he used to say is, I go broke twice a year. And then when I heard that, I said, well, what is he talking about? He's got a lot of money. And then he went on to explain it. And what he meant was, I go broke twice a year because I make two big investments in real estate twice a year. I take all the money and I dump it into one. I got no money left.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So don't come to me asking me for money because I'm not Bank of America. You know, he's a little abrasive, if not a lot.
Yeah.
And so, but he said, twice a year I make, and now, he's going broke maybe even more than twice. It begs the question. You see a lot of people on YouTube saying you don't need money to get involved in real estate, and that's true. But if you have money and you get involved in real estate, you have a better footing, because the ways that you get involved in real estate without money, you need to find an investor, or you need to flip the property, or you need to assign it. Mm-hmm. You need to lock it up. So, and you got to start somewhere. So I'm not knocking anything, okay? But if you have revenue, or if you have income from rents or whatever, now you got a little better footing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And real estate, you're right. It's not going to give you the returns that, for example, a stock that flies, through the roof.
Yeah. You catch at the beginning.
You catch it at the beginning, but there's a lot of risk in it.
Oof, absolutely. And the other thing is, from my experience on the stock side, eventually you want to pull your money out, or at least some of it out, because you've made money there and you don't want to leave it all at risk. You could put like stop losses, if it goes under a certain amount, automatically sell. But the reality is that you can't use those funds. There may be ways, right? But traditionally, you don't have access to your money that's in the stock market until you sell it. And then you're going to pay taxes on any capital gains, any money that you made on there. I don't know that. I know that you're going to have capital gains when you sell real estate, but there's ways to defer it.
You can do a 1031 exchange, and you can defer the capital gains down the line. And there's a way that you will never pay. There's a way that you will never pay.
Yeah. See, I don't know of that in stocks. Eventually, you got to pay your taxes on it. But then the other thing is, that's once you sell, you're no longer in the game on the stocks.
Well, the same with real estate. You sell your property.
But you can refinance real estate.
Correct.
And you can, when the appreciation. So I'm a little bit biased also. I think it's good to have both, but I would put like 80-20, 80% in real estate, 20% in stocks, or 90-10, because I think it's good still to have some things, and I have some crypto, and I believe in having some of that. Okay. But because you never know down the road. But
sure.
But I think that the more steady, and the idea that you can buy something, it appreciates, you can refinance it, and then maybe buy another one, and they can both appreciate. I don't see that game in stocks.
Right. Well, there's the guy that Rich Man Poor Man, the gentleman that wrote it.
Yeah. Robert Kiyosaki.
Yes. So he pushes that a lot. He says, I don't pay taxes, or his taxes are minimal, because you pay taxes when you sell. So he doesn't apparently sell anything. So what he does is he buys something and he refinances it, pulls money out.
Right.
Now you have this liquid amount of money that you can use to buy another piece of property, but you're not paying taxes on it because it's a loan. Okay, so he actually writes it off. Okay,
Yeah.
and then he does the same thing with the other one,
Yeah.
and the same thing with the other one. And so what he does is he's always talking about using debt the correct way.
Yeah. Yeah.
He says, I don't go buy a
Yeah.
Ferrari or something like that, and I have that debt that's not producing income.
Right.
He uses debt from a revenue producing income property.
That's one thing that also Grant Cardone, and this is years ago, I heard him say, he would say, if you want to buy yourself a Ferrari or BMW, whatever, use passive income to buy it. So whatever the monthly payment is, make sure that you have enough passive income to make that monthly payment.
Right.
And I thought that's a cool thing. You're not using the money that you worked for, which is the active income.
Correct.
You're using passive income from rental property or whatever other assets give you passive income
Correct.
to pay for it. I thought that was cool.
Oh, it is cool.
Yeah.
Because it's what do you call it? It's a discretionary income. I mean,
Yeah.
you can do with it whatever. I mean, once you stabilize like a base, I know folks that have created a revenue stream to cover a base. Okay, that base is what they do day in and day out in their lives. They like to go eat out. They like to spend a little money on clothing. They like to buy some jewelry, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever it, because at some point you want to treat yourself too, right? So they have this revenue stream that comes in on a monthly basis, not necessarily from real estate, other income producers and properties, assets
Yeah.
that are considered passive. Like I knew a guy that had Coke vending machines, and he had like 400 of them,
Yeah.
and there was a tremendous amount. I knew another guy, this is a long time ago, that, now we have cell phones, but there was a point,
Oh yeah.
folks,
Payphones.
that we had paid phones. And, for you youngsters or younger folks, you might not ever remember it, but there were pay phones everywhere. And I knew a guy that had 1,200 pay phones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
That was, that was a
yeah.
passive income. People would
Passive
just
income.
come, put their quarters,
put their quarters in, and
Yeah.
sometimes making a phone call took like $3 or
parking lots,
parking lots,
car washes.
car washes.
There's so many different ways. I mean, you still have to work it somehow. Somebody has to work it, the car wash but it's not. It's more of a passive
Right.
type of investment.
But see that.
That's gone away though. The phone business. Imagine.
Well, the phone bit. Well, it's something else came up.
Sure.
It's just one of those things.
Yeah.
But I remember he had like 1,100 phones, pay phones,
Payphones. Yeah.
and then there was something similar to a route, like these lunch trucks.
Yeah.
They have routes that they protect very much.
And they pick
That's
up.
a podcast. Okay, I had a few insured that went out there with machetes to protect their route.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's another thing, but I just thought about it real quick. But,
Yeah. They have the route, and they go and they pick up from each.
Right, but this guy bought a route from another guy that was retiring. The gentleman
Oh.
got sick, and he said, "I don't want it anymore." And it was another 800 phones. 800 physical locations. Can you imagine? So he had 1,100, and then when he got that, he got another 800. So that was almost 2,000 phones.
Wow.
The amount of money that was coming in from that was ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that business today is
Is-
dead.
Yeah. Vending machines.
Vending machines.
I mean, maybe in some areas, but vending machines, I mean, you don't really see it that
No,
much
no.
anymore in certain
We
parts.
saw it when we went to Arizona in that restaurant. Oh, maybe you weren't. Were you there? No, you weren't there. You didn't go with us.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, they're still around, but
Yeah.
it used to be everywhere.
Well, that brings up a nice story, if I may.
Yeah.
My dad used to smoke cigarettes a lot. And he was a guy that worked in the evenings because he worked in the newspaper business.
Yeah.
And he never worried about having cigarettes because there was a vending machine at, he worked for a company called the Herald Examiner, okay, a newspaper. And it's no longer with us either, the Herald Examiner. Anyway, so one night he goes to the vending machine, and it wasn't cheap. A little thing was like, I don't know, back then $1.75, $2.75, something like that. And he put his quarters in, and then he pulled the lever, and the cigarettes then come down. You know, and then he pulled it again and again, and he looked around and he started, punching the machine, right? My dad told me this. And then he said, you know what? I'm done with cigarettes. And he stopped smoking because he was so frustrated with that he stopped smoking there.
Wow.
Cold turkey, just like that. No patches, no nothing. And so we owe my dad's stopping smoking to a vending machine. But yeah, getting creative. If there's a message, look, get out of the house. Go get some fresh air. Yesterday I was talking to my handyman of 16 years. He had a surgery and he's not doing all that good. He's going to be fine eventually, but somehow a nerve was messed up, and so he's hurting. But to him, getting out of the house into the sun and seeing a bird fly by and this and that, it's like a whole new, he was a guy that was out on the streets all the time.
Yeah.
You see birds all the time. But now when you're stuck in the house,
Yeah.
It's just like a whole new revelation of things. Get out of the house, hack, do a mind hack, because opportunities abound in this country still.
Right.
Okay? Don't let yourself get down.
Yeah.
And
the opportunities are out of the house. For the most part. Hey, you can make an argument for anything, but for at least from our experience, you have to go out and get them. You have to leave the office, leave the house. I personally have never understood in sales. I mean, unless you're making outbound types of calls or mailers, or like the only way to get business is you have to go out and attract.
Some people would put up a very good argument against you on that.
Yeah.
Because there's a guy that's pushing some program where all you need to be extremely successful is a cell phone, a laptop, and the U.S. mail system.
For sure.
A Federal Express or FedEx or.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, there are ways.
It
I'm
takes
just speaking
certain
from my
skills.
experience. From my experience,
Right.
the business and the opportunities are on outside of the office,
For me, they are.
outside of the house.
Yes.
And the more that we get comfortable inside of a setting that's nice and cozy and everything's available, the less incentivized. Like I remember I used to not want to, like, I would want to do things standing up, or I wouldn't want to sit down when I was in the office. I would want to try and force myself to stand up or put something on my chair that's uncomfortable so I don't, because
That's great.
it's very easy to be comfortable behind a desk, and you got everything is right here. You don't have to go anywhere.
Look, I had a mentor. This is, again, when God created the heavens and the earth, okay? And his content was good, but I hated going to his mentorship class because all the time he would make us do, before we got started, 25 jumping jacks, okay? And if you didn't do the 25 jumping jacks, he wouldn't take you. He would ask you to please leave the hall or whatever. And every time, and he was really good. So, you had to put up with the jumping jacks. You did 25 jumping jacks.
He wanted to get your blood pumping.
He wanted to get you pumping.
Wake you up.
And whether you liked it or not, those were his house rules. and if you didn't do it, you were out the door. And he was excellent. So I
Okay.
put up with the 25 jumping jacks and,
Yeah.
all the time. And
Yeah.
so, there's something to be said about that.
Definitely, definitely. But I think that and for just for us, and yesterday we had a great meeting with Jerry,
Yes.
and in the morning, and one of the things he said is that the way that you speak is you come across genuine, and you can tell that you like to talk to people and um, build relationships. And he was also saying that that's how he is,
He is.
and he is that type of person.
He's a good guy.
But his trade is accounting, right? And so accountants for the
A
many
little
times
on the dry side, right?
yeah, it's
Maybe.
you're looking at spreadsheets and numbers, and so sometimes that profession you're kind of behind a computer, but he's a lot on the field, and that's what I think. I think he enjoys it. I think it gets tiring, but we like being out on the field and on the streets because
Absolutely.
look at by doing so, that's how opportunities come about. That's what I think we've pushed, and at least for us, you gotta get uncomfortable. If you can do it with somebody else, that way maybe you're not by yourself. Like if maybe I'm not feeling it, but you are that day, we'll do it. If maybe
we
you're
feed
not,
off each other.
yeah,
Okay, and that's extremely
like a
important.
buddy system.
A buddy system, and we hold each other accountable.
Yeah,
And that's very important too. And that's a big mistake that I'll share right now. I probably could have been a lot more successful than I currently are, but I never wanted this push thing. I never wanted to have somebody. I never wanted to be accountable to somebody for X
Oh.
amount of goals. I figure I'm gonna push myself, okay? And I always thought I'm pretty hard on myself, okay? Looking back on my years in business, I can see where I was wrong in a couple of instances, where if I would have had somebody that I had to be totally accountable to, that I might have done a little better in certain areas. But I always wanted the freedom
yeah,
to be able to do what I wanted, when I wanted, with whom I wanted.
Yeah.
And in that, if you're a self-motivator and you push yourself, and I think that I was hard on myself, but I think I could have done better. It's one of the things that as I look back, I don't think accountability is a bad thing.
yeah. No, I think
I don't think it's a bad thing.
Jocko Willink says that the discipline equals freedom. So let's say in that situation, maybe you were looking for freedom, but what his perspective is, right? If you are extreme accountability, you'll have the freedom. You'll be able to do the things. So I think, I mean, I hear you're saying it's maybe something you regret or you would change, but it worked for you.
Everything in life is a balance.
Yeah, it worked for you.
Yeah, you go for accountability, you lose a little bit of spontaneity in your life.
I think you got to go with what you feel.
Right.
And if that stringent accountability, Jocko Willink is a Navy SEAL, right? So he goes by that, and that works for him. But maybe it's not the lifestyle that everybody needs to necessarily live, but it's a good thing to look up to. But you got to do what you feel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with you. There were a couple of seminars that, as I look back when I was younger, they were costly, but they warned you up front that they were running it like a military school, where you were going to be accountable for this and this and this, like in the first 2 days, and this and this and that for the first 2 days. And I really liked it, and I really thought about joining that, and I didn't.
Yeah,
It was just like too
much.
for me, too tough for me. I was doing a lot of stuff, and in order to do that, I had to give up some of the other stuff that I was doing. And when I put it in the balance, it didn't make sense for me. I know a couple of people that walked out of those seminars and skyrocketed. And so, you know, you always think, I wonder, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, you know, as long as you're content, content is not a good word. You know, you have to be happy at one point with
Fulfilled,
with
happy.
fulfilled, yeah, yeah.
You have purpose,
yeah,
and you have a reason to get up in the morning.
and maybe we can. I don't know if you want to end it, but I do have a real good pearl to throw out there, and I'm going to steal this thought from a guy that I follow a lot, and his name is Jordan Peterson, and this I think is the answer to many things. Okay. He says, don't compare yourself to other people. You know, that potentially can lead you into a path of misery. Compare yourself only to the miserable self that you were the day before. That's exactly how he puts it. Compare yourself to the miserable self that you were before. And as long as you improve from the person that you were yesterday, you are on the right path. Keep doing that on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And by the time the year goes out, you've improved yourself 365 times.
I think it's a great piece of advice.
You know, Jordan Peterson is supposed to be one of the eminent minds of our time. Yeah. And I follow this gentleman a lot and have a great deal of respect for him.
Easier said than done. I think human tendency is to compare. You see a child and they're looking at the kid next door with a toy they have. So you have to remind yourself of that every day, but I think it's a really good model to live by. Because if you're improving from the person you were yesterday, that's really all that matters. Social media doesn't help either, I feel. Social media is constantly seeing other people, and you can't help if it's instinctual. You compare.
Right.
Maybe it has to do with back in the day. It was like scarce resources. You know, they got the food, and I need to, somehow, there's less food for me, or I don't know. I don't know where this comes from, but if we can limit maybe the amount of social media, I put a timer on my phone that tells me when I pass 15 minutes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I need that.
On the daily, every day.
I'm on social media a lot.
I'm not going to pretend I don't pass 15 minutes, but I have a timer and it reminds me.
Oh.
And so, hey, this is not productive. Post, engage, comment this, and then get off. Because we can get lost in that world.
Oh, yeah. The thing that I'm doing more lately is humor. And I like Joe Rogan a lot. And he's funny.
Oh, yeah. Comedians.
Yeah, he's funny. And then from that, I guess the algorithm throws me stuff there. I get funny stuff that there's a video that I probably seen like 40 times. There's a guy out there that he's with his buddy, and then they put one of those plungers on his head, and then he gets upset. I think I've seen that short clip. Like, it's just every time I see it, I crack.
There's nothing like humor.
You need it.
You need it. It's
and
good for the soul.
And then he's got that plunger, and he's all upset, and he's walking around, and he's got
because he's bald.
Yeah, he's bald, and they really got a good suction on it, and so he's just And then when he tries to take it off, he can't.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
humor is good for the soul.
It's good for the soul. I need it every now and then, and I enjoy it. And, stuff like that, because it's
a break.
Spontaneous.
Oh, yeah.
You can tell that was not made up. There's no way to make something like that up. And the guy that's filming is laughing so hard that he's choking to death.
Yeah, yeah.
I love it.
Cool. We'll wrap it up with that. Thank you.
Thank you.